Arthur had installed a camera in his house out of curious intrigue when observing his dog's peculiar behavior, staring at a particular spot on the wall for extended periods. Little did he realize that the footage he would capture would lead him to open up a hole in his wall and uncover a heartbreaking mystery. When the truth came to light, Arthur found himself overcome with emotion. Welcome to the Unusual channel. If you're new here, feel free to support us by hitting the like button, subscribing, and turning on the notification bell to never miss our stories. On a peaceful fall afternoon, with the sun casting gentle golden beams of light on the quaint town of Willowdale, Arthur, a young programmer, was soaking in the tranquility of his environment. At the age of 29, Arthur's life had been a whirlwind of rapid changes and hasty decisions. However, this move from city life to the calm countryside felt like the best decision so far. Arthur was not embarking on this new chapter of his life alone. His companion was Max, a dark-furred dog whose soulful eyes exuded an understanding beyond his canine nature. Max had been a beacon of hope for Arthur, adopted from a local shelter, and had quickly proved to be more than just a dog. Max was a companion, a friend. Nevertheless, Max's odd conduct had begun to unsettle Arthur's newfound idyllic serenity. The dog seemed fixated on a certain area of the living room wall, often losing hours staring at this particular point. Arthur initially found Max's behavior amusing and intriguing, but as this continued, he found himself more and more concerned. Arthur approached the wall that seemed to hold Max's attention. He could find no visible issues on the light blue painted surface, no signs of moisture, cracks, or any other obvious anomalies. He parked himself next to Max, trying to perceive if there was something about the wall that he was missing. Could it be that Max was seeing something unbeknownst to him? He asked himself half-jokingly. Max merely glanced at Arthur, then resumed his study of the wall, as if acknowledging the import of his silent task. Determined to understand Max's fixation, Arthur ran his hand over the wall's cold surface. Could there be an unseen infestation behind the wall? He wondered aloud. The notion of his new home potentially being overrun by pests did not bring him comfort. Knocking slightly on the wall, he listened. Everything sounded normal until a faint scratching noise pricked his ears. Could it be? Did you hear it, Max? He asked quietly. Max reacted to his question positively. His ears perked up, and his tail wagged slightly as if he were supporting Arthur to delve deeper into the mystery. Feeling empowered by Max's quiet encouragement, Arthur felt it was high time to delve deeper. After all, he conjectured, it wasn't only the wall concealing secrets, but perhaps by exploring it, he could unveil more about his new dog companion's enigmatic world. With this determination in his heart, Arthur was clueless that he was on the brink of discovering something far beyond his wildest dreams. The ensuing day, the heavens above Willowdale unveiled gray and cloudy, the massive clouds hinting at an impending downpour. Within the tranquil sanctuary of Arthur's home, an expectant hush permeated the air. Max returned ardently to his position by the wall, his stance stalwart and intent. Arthur observed momentarily, then gripped a flashlight out of the kitchen cabinet with unwavering determination. "Let's uncover your enigma, Max," he voiced, imbibing a cocktail of exhilaration and subdued apprehension. Bending beside Max, Arthur commenced a meticulous examination of the wall. He gradually trailed the flashlight over the azure-painted surface, the illumination exposing every minuscule facet of the wall's surface. Nothing particularly unusual struck him until a minor abrasion piqued his interest. Arthur concentrated the beam on that zone, his forehead creasing in puzzlement. Although the scratch was almost invisible and barely noticeable, it surely existed. He gingerly brushed his fingers over it, feeling the faint irregularity on his fingertips. Max, alongside him, observed each move with acute intensity, seemingly cognizant of the gravity of their endeavor. Intrigued, Arthur considered trying something. He gently knocked on the wall, first in proximity to the scratch, followed by multiple locations encircling it. In one specific spot, lower down, the resulting sound was remarkably distinct, hollow, and not solid. "Did you pick up on that, Max?" Arthur questioned in hushed tones. an element of astonishment and a dash of anxiety coloring his words. Max returned his gaze, his large eyes seeming to encourage Arthur to delve further. A surge of excitement filled Arthur, and he brought his ear close to the wall, straining to hear every sound. And there it was, a soft noise, much akin to scratching, originating from behind the wall. It was barely discernible but undeniably present. A shudder coursed down Arthur's spine. "Max, something's concealed behind this wall," he openly voiced, uncertain whether he was more terrified or intrigued. In response, Max issued a soft, low growl, his tail giving a single firm wag. With a newfound resolve to unmask the concealed mystery, Arthur headed to the garage to fetch appropriate gadgets. He returned armed with a tiny hammer and a chisel, taking a substantial breath, readying himself for the revelations that lay ahead. As Arthur poised the chisel against the wall under Max's attentive gaze, he gently knocked it with the hammer. The plaster yielded slightly. "All right, Max, we are about to uncover your secret," he declared, feeling a blend of resolve and apprehension. Although this was a completely new terrain for Arthur, his sense of curiosity and the concern he had for Max propelled him forward. Each gentle knock saw a chunk of the wall dislodged, allowing further insight into the enigma Max had stumbled upon. Arthur was hopeful he'd be able to face whatever truth might be hiding behind the cerulean wall. After artfully removing some more plaster pieces, he began to notice the space behind the wall was bigger than anticipated. The darkness hid what lay within, and his flashlight appeared almost engulfed by the shadows. The only thing he could depend on was Max's unwavering attention, head held high, watching Arthur's every move. His heart rate quickened slightly when the hole was large enough that he could peek into it with his flashlight. An encounter with the cool, stagnant air from behind the wall brushed against him. A whiff of a musty scent followed, as well as an unidentifiable smell. Illuminating a tiny cavity with his flashlight, Arthur surmised it could be a residue of an outdated plumbing fixture or an incomplete renovation project, but was now a good place for dust and cobwebs. Deciding to investigate further, he set up a portable infrared, motion-activated camera aimed at the opening. His goal was to uncover if there was some creature, or perhaps even a person occupying the space that was the cause of Max's sudden obsession with the wall. Evening descended over Willowdale, and as if cued, the rain started falling, making a rhythmic patter against the windows. The room was filled with silence, interrupted only by the occasional sound of the rain and the faint click of Arthur's camera set for recording any motion. Arthur had a sleepless night, getting up intermittently to keep an eye on what the camera captured. Max was equally restless, vacillating between napping and staring intently at the wall. In the unearthly quiet of the late hours, the camera caught something. Arthur was awakened by an alert on his phone, and he quickly went to view the captured footage. His initial view was a swiftly moving shadow swiftly across the camera's angle of vision, causing his heartbeat to falter slightly. He paused the video and replayed it. Without a doubt, there was something present, something small and swift, too quick to be simply an illusion. "Max, you were on to something," Arthur whispered, casting his gaze to the dog, who reciprocated with a soft growl. Seemingly delighted his determination had been recognized. Intrigued and somewhat apprehensive, Arthur concluded he required assistance. The following sunrise, he dialed up a companion who engaged in building and refurbishing work. "Tom, I need a hand. Can you drop by my place and inspect something peculiar?" He briefly outlined his circumstances, leaving out how Max was the detector of this enigma for the moment. Upon Tom's arrival, being equipped with superior tools and a curiosity equivalent to Arthur's, they geared up to delve into the mystery unveiled by Max. Whatever lay hidden could just be a peculiar aspect of the house's design or something entirely unforeseen. "Are we ready to discover what's concealed behind your wall?" Tom questioned as he organized his gear. "Definitely," Arthur responded, although his tone suggested a minor uncertainty. "Something suggests we're on the verge of revealing something more astonishing than mere obsolete pipework." Max, stationed by their side, wagged his tail, almost in agreement and encouraging the men to press on with their expedition. As the daylight softly streamed through the drapes, Arthur and Tom readied up for an extensive inspection of the enigmatic crevice, obscured behind the wall. Tom carried along a compact exploration camera, an apparatus equipped with a durable, flexible wire and a mini illumination at its terminus, perfect for examining slim and dimly lit recesses. "Let's discover what lies hidden," commented Tom, as he cautiously maneuvered the camera into the cavity that Arthur had widened. The screen linked to the camera projected a blurred vision of the interior crevices within the wall. For a split second, only obscurity and dust particles twirling in the path of the camera's light were discernible. Max keenly observed beside Arthur, seemingly grasping the gravity of their ongoing task. Each adjustment of the camera led the two gentlemen to lean forward in anticipation of what might be displayed on the screen. Abruptly, the camera disclosed an artifact, prompting Arthur and Tom to exchange surprised glances. There was a tiny aperture at the far end of the wall crevice, similar to a covert passageway. "Looks like it's more than a mere void," Tom noted, fine-tuning the camera for a clearer vision. By adjusting the focus, the illumination exposed a space that appeared to be a minuscule cavity, perhaps a concealed vault or alcove disregarded during a past refurbishment. Inside the alcove, an object shimmered dimly under the light. "Can you spot that?" Arthur inquired, his utterances barely audible, pointing towards the monitor, where a tiny entity reflected some light. "Seems like there is an element in there," Tom echoed, deftly adjusting the camera to capture a sharper view. The entity was petite, spherical, and exhibited metallic radiance. It resembled an antique coin, or perhaps a pendant, something quite unusual to be secreted within a wall. Intrigued and riddled with curiosity more than ever, Arthur's gaze met with Max's, who continued peering at the wall. "Well done, champ," he expressed in barely audible tones, patting the canine's crown, who reciprocated with a gentle wag of his tail. Intending to extract the mysterious entity, Arthur needed Tom's assistance to safely excavate more fragments of the wall around the niche. Collaboratively employing the necessary equipment, they managed to carve an opening broad enough for Arthur's arm to reach inside. Arthur's heart pounded in anticipation as his arm penetrated the niche. His fingers located a frigid metallic element, which he painstakingly extracted, causing an explosion of age-old dust. Now that the entity was in their possession, Arthur and Tom inspected it in the radiant room light. The object was indeed an antique pendant, weighty and imprinted with carvings that they couldn't instantaneously comprehend. The metal exhibited an aged, lustrous finish, with symbols etched on it that hinted the pendant could have been an element of some ritual or ancestral treasure. "This is certainly worthy of further inspection," Tom articulated, equally beguiled by the discovery. Arthur, equally spellbound by the unexpected find, expressed his gratitude for Max's unforeseen aid. "Let's delve deeper into this," he proposed, unwaveringly intending to probe the pendant's background and its purpose of concealment within that wall. As the duo brainstormed, Max reclined on the floor, visibly content with the day's exhilarating events. He had triggered a quest they hadn't foreseen at the day's onset. The exploration of the clandestine spot within the wall by Arthur and Tom ensued. As they scrutinized the age-old pendant, a subtle sound, once negligible due to their enthrallment with the metallic entity, gradually began to overshadow them. It was a faint, nearly muffled cry, emanating from the same secretive spot where they found the pendant. Arthur stilled at the sound, the pendant firmly within his grasp, and locked glances with Tom. "Did you perceive that?" he queried, his voice imbued with a mixture of astonishment and worry. Tom, who also discerned the utterance, affirmed, "A living entity is likely trapped within," he deduced. Max, who up until this point had been tranquil, abruptly became attentive again and began to utter low growls towards an aperture in the wall. Pepped up by Max's response, Arthur ventured towards the wall once more, wielding a flashlight in one hand and a medallion in the other. With utmost care, he let the flashlight bathe the interior of the concealed nook in light, guiding it until the beam fell upon a pair of gleaming eyes reflecting in the shadows. A tiny kitten, evidently perturbed and bewildered, was huddled in the remotest corner of the cavity. "Oh my gosh, a kitten!" Arthur exclaimed, his voice brimming with a blend of relief and urgency. How did the poor little thing get in there? To his surprise, but displaying equal empathy, Tom fetched a pair of gloves from his toolkit. "Let's rescue it from there." He observed the kitten looked afraid, probably famished as well. Arthur, ensuring not to further scare the small domestic animal, put out his hand to embrace it. The kitten, after initially hesitating, seemed to perceive the effort to help and allowed Arthur to hold it gingerly. Arthur cradled the kitten against his chest and then surfaced from the aperture to place it on the room's floor. Max sauntered over slowly and cautiously, allowing him to smell the kitten, who first displayed aggression but soon unfurled, realizing there was no threat. Tom proposed a visit to the vet, noticing the kitten was now timidly exploring the room. He needs to be examined, and we should find out if he belongs to someone. In agreement, Arthur, still stumped by the peculiar happenings of the day, nodded. Yeah, let's do that. Moreover, we must investigate this medallion and how both ended up lodged in that wall. They organized a carrier for the kitten and made sure the medallion was safe. Together, Arthur and Tom, escorted by Max and the newly saved kitten, made strides towards their car. The overcast sky extended above Willowdale was beginning to brighten, as though the riddle of the wall and saving the kitten ushered not only a new ally for Arthur and Max, but also pioneered a novel chapter of discoveries and escapades for all involved. Upon reaching the vet's clinic, the kitten was promptly taken for examination. The veterinarian, Dr. Simon, a man of a gentle demeanor with seasoned hands, checked the little kitten gently and affectionately. After conducting several tests, he shared his findings. He's a bit parched and underfed, but overall he appears to be fine, Dr. Simon apprised Arthur. Arthur questioned, hopeful of a positive response, whether the kitten had a home to retreat. Is it possible to know if he has an owner? The vet shook his head in negation. There isn't a microchip, and he isn't wearing a collar. He seems like a stray, albeit he's surprisingly sociable, which implies he had contact with people before, Dr. Simon explained. Arthur observed the little feline toy with a squished paper sphere on the office floor. We've got ourselves a new family addition, he commented, grinning, while Max, having monitored the situation attentively, swung his tail contentedly. Dr. Simon beamed and said, "A fortunate find for this little one. It seems he and Max are hitting off quite well." Back at the house, Arthur designed a tranquil spot for the little cat, complete with a soft bed, food, and water. Max kept a keen eye on each step, eager to ensure the comfort of his latest companion. The transition happened effortlessly. The little cat, now named Shadow by Arthur, embraced his new abode at the drop of a hat, navigating every nook and cranny and engaging in horseplay with Max as though they were lifelong companions. As the days rolled off and Shadow was molding to his new surroundings, Arthur immersed himself in uncovering the enigma of the medallion. After scouring the internet and consulting with local history aficionados, Arthur speculated that the artifact might be a part of an antiquated collection locally, possibly associated with an affluent lineage of the past. To explore this possibility further, Arthur got in touch with a reputable university that housed a department solely dedicated to archaeology and regional anthropology. The experts demonstrated considerable interest and arranged an appointment to observe the medallion and probe into the origins and relevance of the wall stash. When the scheduled day of the visitation rolled around, the experts ratified that the medallion was indeed an artifact of historical importance. The concealment of the item, they postulated, was primarily for safeguarding treasures during periods of strife. The unearthing of the medallion not only broadened the historical purview of Willowdale, but also put the secluded town on the radar for other academics and history buffs. While Arthur was coming to terms with the newfound historical revelation, he reflected on appreciation for the incredibly crucial roles Max and indirectly Shadow played in unearthing a bygone piece of history. Life in the quiet town of Willowdale, he realized, as he observed the content Max and Shadow snoozing by each other, had spiraled into something far more riveting and worthwhile than he'd ever envisioned. With the household now abuzz with life and secrets laid bare, Arthur felt an unprecedented sense of belonging. These escapades with Max and Shadow were merely the tip of the iceberg, he knew, and he could hardly wait for the unveiling of thrilling new adventures that loomed in the future. Don't miss out on the previous video. Click now on the banner to the right. See you next time.